Inupiaq, and her hometown is a super small town in northwest Alaska. But I grew up here in Tucson, and I'm extremely proud of that. My Inupiaq name is Tukraluk, which means good for nothing. But I don't take that personal. I hold it with pride. And yes, I work for the Hiapsi Devi. In Yoeme, it means heart healers. Our focus is around domestic violence, sexual assault, and victimization.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brianna Valencia. Um, I am a tribal member here for the Pascua tribe. I was born and raised here in Tucson. Both my families come from Old Pascua and New Pascua. My family name, I honestly just found this out not that long ago. Our family name was called Masawel from the Valencias, and that means big deer in Ueme, and I thought that was really pretty. So I've been working for the tribe for 2.5 years as a care specialist for Sewa, and I work closely with youth groups. I work with a youth group on my own, well, with help with the other coworkers. And sorry guys, I'm very nervous. It's my first time doing something like this, so if I'm a little choppy, just yeah. I have my notes too. So a little bit about like what Sewa does and what we do for work is we are more we work with the community and youth. Sorry. Like working for Sewa has taught me about like customizing a care plan to develop the principles of being youth guided, family driven, and community based that embraces the family's culture and language. Sewa provides a system of care to families within their homes, schools, and communities. We listen to families' voices on what we can do to support and provide resources to the community. Oh, okay. And so for what I do for work too is I work with Youth Move. Youth Move is a program within Sewa that connects and supports and develops youth leadership skills to help create a positive change. Youth Move has definitely been involved in a lot of projects and events in the community, as long as also working with the Missing Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls awareness campaigns. We worked closely with the Honor Collective. I don't know if Honor is here, but Honor has definitely helped with Youth Move, and they've been participating in like a lot of their projects, events. They did the Orange Shirt Day at the mural on Broadway and Alvernon they used to have. They're just to honor the people from the residential schools, and they definitely have been a part of that and help with the healing from Honor that they had offered. Youth Move has definitely, like, from youth, they are very aware of this for the missing murdered Indigenous women and girls. They're very involved. Like I said, if it wasn't for the help of Honor Collective, they have came to spoke to them, educated them. They try to bring it into their schools as well. When it comes to that day, they talk about it. And I am just very like proud of the group. They're very, very involved in just community events and around the tribe and in town. Sorry, my notes. What the youth have also done last year in the fall, they hosted a youth summit, which was youth led about trauma and healthy relationships. The healthy relationships. Oh, and the gender fluidity and LGBTQ plus. There are, when they led that conference, it was very youth led. A lot of youth came from the community, and they were very open. They wanted to create a space for the youth to talk about the LGBTQ plus and have a talk about like healthy relationships. And we definitely have incorporated like culture with the youth, and like within the tribe. With when we did the youth summit, we did an activity once that was really awesome. I think from one of our instructors, his name's Joe Costello. He helped them do like they play like a game where they all circle around and they had like a yarn, and then they talked about all the things that they have been they connected within the culture, within trauma, violence, healthy relationships, anything that they could think of. They all work together, and in a way, it just shows that we're all connected. We're all in this together, basically, and they all helped each other out. They were all very supportive of one another, and sorry. With the help of the community and then within the tribe, we have definitely involved, like I've learned a lot also myself from culture and how we involve culture into everything within our tribe and within our groups, especially with healing. Healing's a big part. I know for me personally, what I help to heal myself is the music from the Pascua dancers and the maso. That helps me, and like it means a lot to me to hear the maso, like the drum. It just symbolize the maso, the deer dancer, especially during the ceremonies. It's just really really beautiful. And the same thing with youth groups, when we do like our activities, our culture activities, we make like ojos that help protect us, and they bless them, and they do it with a good heart, good mind, to heal whatever they feel at home or they within each other. We just have a safe space for our youth to we just encourage to have everyone with us together. And with the ojos and like the traditional flowers that we have, it's just healing for me personally and healing to my group. We're teaching them how to make flowers just to have, and this definitely helps with the healing process from whatever they've gone through, what I have gone through. And usually with the traditional flowers, it just means like the flower world, especially. And what's really cool about it is we have this campaign coming up for the missing murdered Indigenous women and girls for we're bringing up we have like traditional art into this campaign that really means a lot to me personally. We worked really hard on this, and just more of the cultural side of having the work in the city that I'm very excited about, which Joanne will talk more about. But yes, I'm sorry if I sound very, very choppy. But I really, really am excited and happy to be here. I'm sorry I'm very nervous, but this is amazing, and I'm glad to be here. And I just want to, I don't know if Honor is here, but definitely Honor Collective has helped me. Oh, hi. They have definitely helped me learn more about this, the missing murdered Indigenous women and girls, especially with the youth. They definitely appreciate all the help that you've done, and I loved working with you guys. It's been awesome. Melody Lopez is definitely such a help with us. And I'm just excited to bring more youth into my group, to talk about this campaign and work more closely to the community and get them involved. And thank you, Felina, for having me. We worked with Felina too with Youth Move, and I'm gonna pass it on to Joanne.
Thank you, Brianna. So to highlight a few points that Brianna shared. So with Sewa Usim, so Brianna is with Youth Move and I am with HSIB. We're under the same department. And a big teaching that we've been learning recently, more and more, is that each program tends to often work in silos, right? We tend to work separately. And we're learning more and more that it's so essential to be able to work together and collaborate because like what Brianna mentioned and also what Andrea mentioned earlier, all these different forms of violence, not just murder, not just disappearances, but domestic violence, sexual assault, poverty, how we respond to trauma through substance use, self-harm, suicide, we can go on and on and on, right? It's also interconnected. And to be able to come together and even be here today to have these conversations, it's a part of healing because like Brianna mentioned, healing is also not just at the individual level, but it's in the collective community level. And this is healing space, which is really, really precious. And I'm really, really honored to be here. So with Sewa Usim, I'm gonna walk around. I like to walk around. With Sewa Usim, we have a number of different services. We have equine therapy. We have a ranch with a bunch of horses, an emu, some potbelly pigs. We have a prevention program around suicide. We have programs around substance use. We have a wellness gym, a beautiful gym with 3 pools. We have spin classes, yoga classes, all that are for free. We have all these different services. We have school break sessions that we've been doing for the last year, which is a big part of our program. And the reason why I want to highlight that is that part of anti-violence work and a part of addressing MMIR is that it's so layered, right? And it's everything because everything is so connected. And the work that each program is doing, it's part of anti-violence work, right? It's talking about healthy relationships. It's talking about our identities. It's talking about that connection that we can find within ourselves, with each other, with our families. So I really wanted to highlight that part of what Sewa Usim really stands for and where we are continuing to go forward. Okay, so with the campaign, to expand a little bit on the campaign, so like Brianna mentioned, there's going to be billboards. They're all over Tucson. They're mostly focused around the different communities. So Old Pascua, some on the highway to think of the folks who are going back and forth from Guadalupe. We have some near 39th Street. They're all over. We also are going to have buses that run all around Tucson. So it's a wider Tucson campaign. We'll have bus benches and bus shelters as well. So why are we doing this campaign? We were talking about this pretty early on as a team of like, why are we doing this? What is the approach? What is our goal? What is the purpose behind this? And very early on, we were talking about how a lot of this violence and a lot of this harm, it's often not talked about. It's still very hush-hush. And even though there's been advancements like this event, social media has been a big driving force in talking about this more, it's still very hush-hush, right? And I think everyone in this room today and virtually too, we could probably spend days and weeks and even longer just focusing on that piece, right? Like, why aren't we talking about this, right? It's so layered. We can really delve deep into that. So it's not just about education, but awareness and having those conversations. That's a major driving force for us. There's some other teachings that we've been learning throughout the way, and I wanted to highlight 3 of them or 2 of them. So one of them is around language, gender, and data. And I'm super appreciative of Andrea, I don't know where she went, And I'm super glad that the other presenters are here, including Mr. Urbina, to talk about data, because that's something that came up for us early on when we were trying to better understand not just the numbers, right? Because there's people behind this, there's families behind this, but we're trying to better understand what is coming up. Because if Tucson is the fourth city in the US with the highest rates of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, but there's something coming up there when it comes to data and research and conversations and kind of bridging all the different layers, right? The legal side, the mental health side, all these different services so that we can come together, right? So that's something that came up for us. And it's connected to language and gender as well. So you'll see that the campaign is using the words women and girls. And I think we're all aware that there is a gendered violence, right? Gender violence is real. There's a disproportionate number of women and girls that are impacted by this, right? And also other folks, other Native folks, men, boys, Two-Spirit folks, non-binary folks, also experience these types of forms of violence. But again, a lot of the data and research has been a little bit hard for us to understand. And we were having these conversations, and that's the next step for the next campaign, is to really delve into that world to see how violence affects all genders, right? So that's one lesson or one teaching that we had. Another teaching, let's see. No, there was a few others, but that's the main one that I was thinking about. But yeah, the billboards will be up probably next week, and then the buses and the bus benches will be up probably in about 2 or 3 weeks. So we're really excited that this is going to be launched. When it comes to HSIB, there's a few different pieces that I wanted to highlight, also teachings. So the other piece is that another piece that we want to move forward with HSIB and violence is understanding elder abuse as well and familial abuse. That's a whole nother area that I think we need to work on more collectively. Another piece is when it comes to services and support for those who have been harmed, who have been the families of people who have been killed, all the services that are offered or that are needed at every level are so essential, right? Legally, medically, emotionally, mentally, physically, with safe shelter, food, right? These basic necessities are so essential. When I think of a prevention work, I also think about being able to take a step back and look at the root causes of where this violence is coming from. And I know it's kind of been talked about a little bit today already of the connections to history and the connections to colonialism and white supremacy. And I think about the lens that I normally have. I typically have a lens around domestic violence and the dynamics that come up with that around power and control. And being able to have more conversations to look at really the root causes, that's prevention work. In addition to all the services and support and care that is still needed for those that are being harmed right now. So that's where we want to take it, HSIB, and I think as a whole for Sewa Usim. Did you want to add anything?
I really think this campaign, well, just in general, has definitely educated me because honestly, at first, before I started working with the tribe, I didn't know anything about the missing, murdered Indigenous women and girls. So when I came into working for Pascua and being educated and learning about this was eye-opening for me for sure. And I respect all the people who are working on this because it is something that is serious and definitely I'm always ready and excited to learn. So I'm like ready to learn more about this, especially working on this campaign with the HSIB team was just learning like the stats and like I didn't know Tucson was the highest one in Arizona. That blew my mind. And just being educated is very, very important. Being aware. That's what I try to tell with get the youth involved which they're learning and they want to know more, and that's why we got to keep, not have this like campaign silent. Like, it's just very, very important to speak about, and it's very informative to me. And I just want to thank people who have been working on this, because it helped me. And it's just very admirable for all the work that everyone has done for this campaign. And I'm really thankful to be here and learn, and I'm always willing to learn. And yes, thank you for that.
I think I still have some time, right? Okay. So I wanted to end on one last thing. It should take maybe 5 or 10 minutes. So I've been thinking about what draws me to this work, and I wonder what has drawn you all to this work. And I can't help to feel that oftentimes it's very personal why we're drawn to this work. You know, many of us here may have experienced some type of harm throughout our lives, or we have loved ones who have been murdered or who have been harmed. And that's a lot to take on, right? That's a lot to think about. I know just earlier, I was already feeling it in my body. I could already sense what was coming up for me. And I think that's important to acknowledge. And I also wanted to share the community resiliency model. Has anyone heard of it? No one? Okay. So the community resiliency model, so typically we can share this presentation in a good 2 days or longer. So I'm just kind of summarizing what it's about. So the community resiliency model, it's kind of like big words. I'll call it CRIM. We normally call it by that acronym, or the abbreviation, the acronym. So the community resiliency model is through the Trauma Resource Institute. So I definitely recommend to reach out to them or look into them, or if you have questions, feel free to ask me afterwards. So CRIM, they're a set of wellness skills that we can use ourselves and that we can teach others when we're in moments of stress or trauma. So I'll give some examples, and I'll go over one skill in particular to explain, to discuss a little bit about this is. So when we're going through something stressful, and I'll give a mild example at first. So let's say we wake up and we wake up late and we're running late to work or to school. And we have a really big day and we have a lot of important projects that we're working on or meetings. And we're in our cars if we're driving, and there's traffic, it's nonstop. Everything starts to feel like everything's going wrong, right? And you're starting to feel overwhelmed, you're starting to feel anxious, but there's a little deeper side to it as well. Within our bodies, in addition to the feelings, within our bodies, we have sensations that are coming up for us. And this can come up for us. For me, when I get anxious, I sense a tightness in my stomach. That's usually one of the first signs that I sense. Or I have a dryness in my throat. Or I sense my lymph nodes, getting big. Or if I'm starting to feel overwhelmed, I can start to sense wetness in my eyes, like I'm about to cry. All of these are sensations, and they're completely normal. They're part of our nervous system. It's a beautiful thing that our body does this. And the more we understand our bodies, the more we're able to respond to stressors in our life. And not just stressors, but often trauma. To give a more less neutral example that is related to the work that we're doing, and even today, and us here in this room, we can be sitting here today and we can be hearing a story or hear, about violence, and things might be coming up for us. We might start to sense those things that are coming up internally. I started feeling it, like I mentioned. I was sensing a little wet, sweatiness and dryness in my throat. I started to sense that, and that can happen, and that's very real. Logically, in our brains, we might tell ourselves and know that we're sitting in this room right now, we're hearing someone talk, right? But in our bodies, physiologically, our bodies often may not know what we're going through. They're just responding to whatever's coming up. Often it can be a memory, right? So our bodies start to experience all these sensations as if we are experiencing that past memory, or we start to hold on to the feelings and experiences of other people, right? So CRIM is really wonderful because it's able to not only understand our bodies, but understanding what we refer to as the okay zone. In very simple terms, the okay zone is a metaphorical space in a sense, but also physiologically, when we're in a space metaphorically where we are at our best selves. And if a stressor comes up, we're able to respond in a way where we're not going to go into this crisis mode. And that's going to happen, right? Crisis is going to happen. But how we can better respond is a skill that we can work on. It takes practice, which is really beautiful. With the okay zone, you can feel emotions, you can feel sad, but you're at a point, you're in a space that it's not going to bring you down and into sorrow. You can feel sad, but you're in a space where you're okay to respond to whatever's happening. You can work through it. But there are those moments where we are bumped out of our okay zone and we start to feel anxious, we start to feel overwhelmed, or on the other end, we start to feel depressed and we're in this space, in this dark hole, and we don't know how to get out of it. With the skills, I wanted to share one skill in particular that is one of my favorites. It's called resourcing. A lot of these skills I also want to mention, you all do them already. And with resourcing, I'll give you some examples, and you might think of something that relates to you. So a resource it can be an object. I think about children and youth and babies and toddlers. They do this already with their stuffed animals, their teddy bears, their blankies. There's an object that they hold on to that brings them comfort. They do that, right? That's phenomenal. At such young ages, they do that. That's resourcing. It brings comfort, it brings joy, it brings happiness, it brings peace. It can also be a person, whether they are alive right now, someone that you're really close with, or someone you look up to. It could be someone that isn't alive anymore. My dad went to Mexico like 20 years ago, and he came back from his trip, and he brought me this bracelet. And at the time, it wasn't really my style, and I didn't really care for it, and I don't think I wore it that much. But he passed away a few years ago, and this bracelet means something else now to me. And I bring it with me when I do presentations, because it reminds me of the strength that I have from him. And it's beautiful because even though it brings sadness, and I can sense the wetness and the dryness in my throat as I talk about it and think about it, even though there's sadness to it, there's also joy and strength in that. And that's a part of resourcing as well. It could be a memory. It could be a place in the mountains, in the ocean, maybe in your home where you're safe, you feel safe. It brings you that joy and comfort. So it can be any number of things that brings you joy and peace and calmness. So I wanted to take a moment to invite you, and you don't have to if you don't want to, but to take a moment to think about a resource of yours, a person, an item. I know ojos I know I've been learning about ojos, which it could be something culturally, right? It could be a place. So I invite you to think of that for you right now. And as you think about that person or thing or memory or place, I invite you to take a moment to notice anything that's coming up for you right now internally. Are there any sensations that are coming up for you? Where are they coming up for you right now? Are the sensations pleasant? Are they more neutral? Are they unpleasant? I'm curious if anyone's interested in sharing what their resource is. Do you use it to sew or like more just to like squish it? Oh, to knit. It's wonderful. When you, just noticing you talking about it, like I could tell, like your face lit up and you're smiling and you can feel it, that it's something that's very dear to you. Thank you, Dr. Rogo. Anyone else? It's very beautiful. When you were thinking about that, did you notice anything come up for you as you were making those connections? It's beautiful. Did you notice the sensations that were coming up in connection to the gratitude and the love? Were they pleasant or neutral or? Thank you for sharing. Yeah, you're tracking, you're doing it. You bring us so many beautiful points. Thank you for sharing, Council Member. I'm curious because you mentioned too that you noticed a change. What was the change within your body? The calmness felt, did it feel more pleasant or neutral or a release a little bit? Thank you for sharing. You bring up so many great points. Sometimes we live in such a binary world, right, where we're always expected to be happy, or if we're going through something, we don't talk about it. But it's okay to acknowledge the gray as well, and that for some folks, especially folks I think of who have like chronic illnesses and are constantly in the space of unpleasantness and pain, that neutral space can be like a release, and that can mean the world for someone physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And I felt that hearing you share. Thank you. Anyone else?
It was a very pleasant memory for me, and it brought tears to my eyes, but it was like I felt like a warm sensation in my chest. So I appreciate that you were able to educate me on resourcing because that was extremely calming for me. So thank you.
Thank you, thank you. I love hearing memories, and I can, yeah, I feel the sensations too, just hearing you share about that. So thank you very much. So yeah, a lot of these skills, we do them already. Oh, good.
grandmas and aunties and all that, and you know, and I just feel sometimes that I mostly have my mom's jewelry, so it kind of like when I wear her stuff, it makes me feel that I have that touch with her, and it's a special feeling, and I just feel that I know I come down to about talking about it. And so I kind of feel more stronger when I think about her, not letting myself go down or anything like that, because I know she lifts me up, in a special way. That's how I feel about her. And all my grandmas and my aunties, mostly, I think mostly every one of them have passed away. And it was kind of hard too with the COVID. I know we lost a lot of our family back home, so it's, those things, kind of like brings you back to these things. And I think the Tucson Indian Center, I attend over there, and I've talked to a lot of the staff there, and they've been helping me, with certain things that I need to, get out from me, or, so I feel a lot better, talking with someone else. So that's good, that, so it makes me feel, a lot better, and to go on and all that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. It's beautiful to hear what you're doing for yourself. It's not always easy, especially in times when there's so much that we hold on to, especially since COVID. And we think, and when we think of our past loved ones who aren't here anymore, it can bring that bittersweetness. But I love to hear your experience and what it feels, the changes for you, that reconnection, even though our grieving is very much real. Thank you.
I think for me, I consider myself an empath, so I feed off of others' emotions. So as soon as you started talking about your dad, I got a knot in my throat. My eyes were watery. I started to get fidgety. Then shortly after, I started noticing myself disassociating. I started looking outside and like trying to bring myself back. But immediately as I walked into this building, I'm like, ooh, that lighting fixture is going to be my calming space. Because I was looking at it and I was just like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. And I was just watching little birds fly around. But that was where I went to focus on shortly after, where I started to calm myself back down.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. Thank you for sharing that. Um, Disassociating, not just disassociating, but there's so many things, behaviors that we do that are responses to pain. And oftentimes there's a lot of judgment on that and stigma, unfortunately. But it's a response. It's often a survival response. But you described it so well. You were able to look around and find something visually that you felt connected to or brought you comfort. And I'm super glad you mentioned that, because that's actually another skill. That's actually one of the other skills of CRIM is, hey, help now. So I'll just briefly describe it. Help now is exactly what you did, is in the moment where we're in crisis or something, we're reminded of something, if we are able to identify an object nearby or identify 5 colors around or notice the sensation of our legs on the chair, you're essentially reconnecting with your body. So that's exactly what you're doing for yourself as a skill. So again, a lot of these things we do ourselves already, but being able to kind of like name them and understand where it's coming from and understand our bodies is super powerful. It sounds very simple, this idea of tracking our sensations, but like a council member mentioned, we sometimes don't notice in the moment, and then there's a change once we start to pay attention to it and practice, and we're like, oh, okay, this is something that is working for me, and it's part of healing. I think of resiliency as the last note. Resiliency, I know the word resilient often brings a lot of different feelings, especially for people of color, of what that means. Oftentimes people getting tired of being told how resilient we are, right? So I understand that word. With CRIM, it's about that community healing and understanding that despite pain and traumas that we've been through individually, collectively, that there is strength within us and that there's things that we do already to help ourselves and that you're not alone. And this is a part of collectively coming together. Any questions?
I just want to say thank you guys for having us here. I apologize if I was very rusty, but thank you. Thank you, Joanne, for being here with me. And just thank you for my team up here too. Thank you again for having us here.
Any questions?
We have time for a question or two. Anybody have a question?
So I had a question regarding, I work with NAS with TUSD. So I just had a question if you had a listserv or something for me to get information on all the events that you guys are doing, because I know that you do a lot. But I'm new to this position, so I was very wondering what you offer, because majority of our students in TUSD are Pascua Yaqui. So I wanted to find those resources or know where I can find them, because I'm not always on the nation to be able to figure out what events are happening.
For more information, we have in the tribe we have our new health building there within Sewa. We can have someone there for resources. I'm someone you can talk to if you want to. I can offer resources, even what I do more with youth groups, and we're always open. There's always something, and we're always there to help and welcome people. So if you want to talk to me, I can help you with that too. Thank you.
We don't have a listserv, to my knowledge, we don't. I think we should. We've been talking about it. And our social media, we have a Facebook and Instagram page. We might have other pages too, but we often post a lot on the different events.
Any online questions? No? Okay. All right, thank you so much again. We'll take a 3-minute break while we get Mr. Urbina set up here. Feel free to go get some water, some tea,